Hello and welcome to English with Jamie. This is the advanced version of the video. So I will be speaking more quickly. I will be using more vocabulary. This is video number 2, and we're talking about 5 different things. So let's start. To start, I want to talk about this. So in the last video, I called this a mandarin orange. And then I realized, actually, I think it's called a clementine. But I don't know there's not a real name for anything, right? There's not one true real name. There's just every object, everything can have many different names. But now I'm curious. Now I'm curious about the history of the name. Mandarin is actually a language, right? Mandarin Chinese. It's one language in China. The standard, the primary language used by the government is called Mandarin. And so Mandarin orange makes me think this was, an orange that came from China is maybe the idea. But clementine is also something I've seen this called. A clementine, I don't know how recently that name started. Maybe that was very recent. Maybe there was a company that just said, we are going to change the name. We are going to call it Clementines, and we're going to build a brand. A brand is like Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Exxon, right? A brand is not just a word like apple or orange. A brand is something you can own, right? So I'm wondering now, is Clementine the name of this, or is Clementine the brand? Oh, you also sometimes will see at the store, I think I understand now. You'll see a bag of these, and it will say cuties, 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 like, oh, what a cutie. Like, cute is like a baby or a dog, something that when you see it, you go, aw. Cutie is just another way to say cute. A thing that is cute is a cutie. So this company calls these oranges cuties, and I think that is definitely a brand. That is something that this company they had the idea. They said we will call it cuties, and they made a brand. And they probably own the rights. They own the right to call it cuties. What I mean by that is, if you own the right to do something, it means that only you can do it. For example, if I try to put these into a bag and say cuties for sale, and sell them at King Soopers or Walmart, the other company will say, you can't do that. They will sue me. They will say, that's our brand. That's not your brand. You don't have the right. You don't have the right to sell it, and to call it cuties. You have the right to sell it, but not to call it cuties. Anyway, rights are very interesting in the United States. If you ever studied if you've studied for your citizenship test, you might know about this. The right to vote, the right to free speech, the right to create a brand. I don't know. Anyhow, that's enough about this. Let's talk about something else. All right, let's talk about the fork. An interesting thing about forks is that sometimes you'll go to the table and there's many forks. Maybe there's 2 forks or 3 forks. And this would happen in a restaurant that is maybe more fancy, a very nice restaurant or a very nice meal. You might see 2 forks or 3 forks, and the reason you'll see 2 or 3 forks is because there's an idea that if it's a very nice restaurant, you use 1 fork for your salad and one spoon for your soup, and then they take the plates and the dishes away. They take that spoon, they take that fork, and then the next course, the more food comes, and we call this another course, and then you use another fork for that food. And sometimes you'll see this in movies where, for example, the movie Pretty Woman, where there's a woman she has been very poor, and she has never been to a nice fancy restaurant, and she goes to the nice fancy restaurant, and she doesn't know which fork to use. And, people say, well, you use the one on the outside first. You go from the outside in. So start with the outside. So this is something you will see in books and movies about maybe people who are trying to understand how to act at a fancy restaurant. For me, I really don't care. I don't think it's very interesting which fork to use. But you might be in a situation where you see many forks. And if you're in this situation, or many spoons, you start with the outside. The one on the outside of here's the plate. You start with the ones the furthest away from the plate, and then you move in until you finish, right? Okay, so that's about forks. Let's talk about chopsticks. So chopsticks, are you able to use chopsticks? Have you ever tried? I think chopsticks are fascinating because they, at first it seems really difficult, right? Because you're really doing a lot of work to hold this into place. And I don't know if the way I hold chopsticks, I don't think it's it's not the only way to hold them, but the way I've been taught is you hold this kind of like a pencil. Actually, I hold a pencil like this, but what I've been told is you hold one chopstick like how you hold a pencil, and then the other one you kind of put in below. No, that's not what I do. Interesting. I do it quite differently now. I see. Yeah, you hold the bottom one like you'd hold a pencil. You hold the bottom chopstick like the same way. You hold it like you would hold a pencil. You hold the bottom chopstick like you hold a pencil, or like you would hold a pencil. And then you put the top one up here, and the top one is the one that moves, right? If you're watching this and you use chopsticks, is that how you hold your chopsticks? And is that what you learned, or did you ever learn? Do you remember learning, or have you always been able to use chopsticks? So I'm pretty good with chopsticks. If I'm eating with wooden chopsticks and I'm eating rice, I can get all of the rice. Wooden chopsticks are more easy. If I'm using wooden chopsticks that are shaped like a square, right? But these chopsticks are more round, and so it's a little more difficult because they're very small at the end. So it can be a little more difficult to get every grain of rice. The most difficult for me is metal chopsticks. Chopsticks made of metal, usually shiny, silver, gray color metal. Chopsticks made of metal, sometimes it's difficult because they slide. They're very slippery. And if I'm eating, for example, noodles, I can get large groups of noodles, like a clump, we say, a clump of noodles I can lift. But if it's just one or two noodles, sometimes the noodles will slip out of the chopsticks. So I'm not perfect with chopsticks. And I've never caught a fly with chopsticks. There's a famous scene in a movie, a famous part. A scene is like a part of a movie. There's a famous scene in a movie called The Karate Kid, where a man named Mr. Miyagi, who's from Japan, he uses his chopsticks to catch a fly. The fly is flying around, bzzz, and he catches it. I think many people in the United States who are my age will remember this scene from this movie. So I have never caught a fly with chopsticks, or I'm not sure if I've ever caught a fly without chopsticks, even just with my hands. Maybe. Okay, two more objects. An onion. What can you say about an onion? Well, I think two things. One, this is a question for you. Does an onion make you cry? Like when you cut an onion, does it make you cry? For most people, if the answer is yes, right? If you're cutting an onion, tears start to come down your cheek. Tears start sliding down out of your eye, down your cheek. So many people have this problem. When we cut an onion, we start to cry, our eyes start to hurt. What can you do if you don't want to feel pain in your eyes while you're cutting an onion? Do you know? I heard somebody say you can chew bread. If you eat bread while you're cutting an onion, you won't cry. Is this true? I've never tried it. Do you have other solutions? Are there other things you can do when you're cutting an onion so you don't cry? Please tell me your solution. Another interesting thing about an onion for me is that the onion has layers, right? Many different layers when you look at the side. Layers. So this is almost like a tree. A tree has rings or layers to it. Many times when people are writing poetry, they will talk about a person who has layers, or an idea that has layers. And many people will use the onion as a symbol, as a metaphor. A metaphor is like a symbol. So it's interesting because if you go through all the layers, you get to the end. There's nothing inside. There's nothing inside the onion. It's only layers. But for some things, like an artichoke, there is something also inside. But an onion, you go through all the layers to get to the middle and you're finished, right? Okay. The last thing I want to talk about is my hat with the picture of my dog on it. And this story is a little bit long, so this video will be a little longer. This dog was my real dog. It's a picture of my real dog. His name was Cheeto, and he was only 2 pounds. So he was very small. He was like this tall, right? So he's a little bit bigger than on this hat, but he was a very small dog. And I made this hat with his face on it. Actually, I made it because I was traveling and I needed a hat. I needed a hat because it was very, very sunny where I was. It was very sunny. I was in Indonesia, and I thought, I forgot to bring a hat. I need a hat. And I went to I saw a small store, and I saw they had a hat and a shirt, and I said, good, I'll go buy the hat. And I saw this hat, and it was blue and white and red, but there was no picture on it. It was just a hat like this. And I said, that's perfect. I like the colors of the hat, and I need a hat. So I talked to the man who was working there, and I said, hello. I was studying Indonesian, so I tried to speak Indonesian, but he spoke back to me in English because his English was very good compared to my Indonesian. So I just spoke to him in English, and I said, can I buy that hat, please? And he said, no, that's not. That's just a sample hat. It's not the one we're selling. And I said, well, where are the ones that you're selling? He said, well, you have to order them, and you have to put a photograph on the hat. That's what we do at this store. We're not just selling hats. We're selling the service of putting a photograph on a hat. And I said, but I don't need a photograph on the hat. I just need the hat. Can I buy the sample? Can I buy the one you have in the store? And he said, no, I can't sell you that one. And then I said, well, how much is it to put something on the hat? And like, how much does it cost for me to buy a hat with a photo on it? And he said, I think it was very cheap. I think maybe $3. And I said, good, $3. Here, I'll give you $3. I don't need anything on the hat. I'll just pay you $3 for a hat. Can I have that hat for $3? And he said, no, we can't do that. You need to put a photograph on the hat. And so in my mind, I thought, well, this doesn't make sense. He could do less work. He doesn't have to put a photograph or do anything, and he could just sell me that hat for less work. But he said, no, I can't do that. And I guess I understand, because if there's only one sample in the store and then I buy the sample, then he has to wait for another sample. And I think I also understand, because maybe they have no hats in the store. They send them away, or they send the photograph and then they receive the hat. But I understand that now. But at the time, I thought, this is kind of crazy. Why? It seems like he doesn't want to make money. He wants to do more work for the same amount of money. Anyhow, I said, you know what? I have a picture of my dog, and he's very cute. He's a very cute dog, and maybe he would enjoy being on this hat, or maybe I would enjoy, okay, it's not my dog, it's me. Maybe I would enjoy having a picture of my dog on a hat. So I took a photograph to the guy, and the guy made this hat. And I think 2 days later, I was able to pick up the hat, and now I have a hat with a picture of my dog, Cheeto. He's a very cute dog, and he actually died about a month ago now. 1 month ago, he died. He was very sick, and so we had to put him to sleep. But he was a cute dog, and we were good friends for a long time. Even though he's a dog and I'm a person, we were able to be friends for a long time. So thanks for listening to me talk about these 5 objects. I hope you heard some new words, some new phrases. I hope you understood what you heard. If you didn't understand a part of the video, you can write the time. Say, I did not understand 7 minutes and 12 seconds, or what's the word you're saying at 14 minutes, for example. So write that, and I can give you a description of what I'm saying. Thank you very much for listening to English with Jamie. Have a wonderful day.